There are moments in Hollywood that don't just honor a person, they ignite a memory in millions of people at once. On October 3rd, 2025, the sidewalk on Hollywood Boulevard turned into something that felt a lot like Stars Hollow. The reason? Lauren Graham, Lorelai Gilmore to generations of fans, received her star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. The event was more than a ceremony. It became a heartfelt reunion, a celebration of a show that reshaped mother-daughter storytelling, and a reminder that some TV families never really end. They just meet again, right where we left them. From the moment Lauren arrived, it was clear this wasn't going to be a standard photo. Castmates and creators from the world of Gilmore Girls found their way back to one another. Scott Patterson, the gruff and golden-hearted Luke Danes, Kelly Bishop, the formidable and beloved Emily Gilmore, Yannick Truesdale, Michelle, the concierge, whose deadpan will never age, and Matt Chutry, the ever-debated Logan Hunsberger. Behind the mic stood the show's creator, Amy Sherman-Palladino, with longtime collaborator Daniel Palladino just a few steps away, architects the rapid-fire dialogue and emotional punch that made the series a classic. It was a constellation of Gilmore stars gathered to honor the woman at its center. For fans who grew up with coffee, runs, and Friday night dinners, the sight felt surreal. Scott Patterson and Lauren Graham, photographed together at the ceremony, marked a rare public reunion after years of separate appearances. It was the kind of full-circle image that instantly travels across timelines and reminds you how deeply these characters live in people's hearts. Kelly Bishop's presence carried a special gravity too. The elegance of Emily Gilmore standing beside her TV daughter made the day feel intergenerational, like the show itself. And then there was Yannick Truesdale, whose mischievous smile seemed to say he was still timing everyone's check. At the front desk, the chemistry was intact, the warmth unforced. This wasn't forced nostalgia, it was family. The significance of the timing added an extra charge. The ceremony landed during the show's 25th anniversary season. The pilot of Gilmore Girls premiered in October 2000, so the milestone wasn't just for Lauren's career. It was a nod to a series that grew up with its audience, then stayed with them through new seasons of their lives. Think about it, the fans who met Lorelai as teenagers are now parents themselves. The ones who quoted Michelle in dorm rooms now trade as lines in office Slack channels. That's the quiet magic of long-lived television. Its characters become shorthand for how we see ourselves, and sometimes what we hope we're brave enough to say out loud. As the ceremony unfolded, Lauren's ease at the podium reminded everyone why Lorelai remains such a magnetic character. She spoke with the same warmth, wit, and timing that defined her performance, gracious without being solemn, funny without deflecting the emotion in the moment. She acknowledged fans in a way that felt personal, even specific, as if she knew exactly where most of them recognize her: airports, coffee shops, the places where real life hums. If you've ever been one of those fans, nervous, excited, grateful for a quick hello, you could feel seen in her words. But this was also a ceremony driven by the people who helped build Lorelai and Stars Hollow from the inside out. Amy Sherman-Palladino delivering a tribute to Lauren isn't just a colleague praising a friend, it's the show's voice honoring the actor who embodied it. When a creator thanks the lead for changing her life, you understand the symbiosis that makes certain series endure. Lorelai wasn't merely performed, she was inhabited. And that inhabiting gave the show its heartbeat, fast, funny, and full of longing. The reunion energy wasn't only about who was there, but also about what the gathering stirred up: conversations about the revival, the famous last 4 words, and the never-ending debate over Rory's romantic life. Matt Chutry's appearance practically guaranteed 100 think pieces before anyone even sat down to brunch. The ambiguity that closed a year in the life, Rory whispering that she's pregnant, remains one of modern TV's most dissected endings. Lauren has spoken openly about finding the revival beautiful and being puzzled by the intensity of the backlash. Seeing her and Chutry share the day with Amy just feet away turned the sidewalk into the fandom's favorite seminar: what happened, why it mattered, and whether the door is really closed. If you've loved Gilmore Girls from the beginning, you know the show wasn't just about coffee and quips. It was built on choices that felt small in the moment: skipping one Friday dinner, picking one path after a fight, choosing a town over a dream, and then discovering how those choices echo. That's part of why this ceremony hit so deeply. Lauren Graham's career is robust and varied. She's written books, led other series, and continues to take on new projects. But the star on the Walk of Fame arrived like a chapter break that acknowledges exactly how much Lorelai meant. The honor lives under her name, but the light from it falls over an entire creative village. There were also subtle cross-currents of Lauren's broader TV family. Mae Whitman, who played her daughter on Parenthood, was among those celebrating her, blending 2 eras of Graham's television motherhood in one event. In a way, the day braided together the 2 characters that most audiences tether to her legacy: Lorelai Gilmore and Sarah Braverman. The message was simple: whether comedy, drama, or that delicate space in between, Graham has a rare gift for playing women whose vulnerability doesn't cancel their strength, it sharpens it. And while Alexis Bledel wasn't at the ceremony, her absence didn't diminish the Rory-Lorelai bond in fans' minds. The 2 had already stood together on stage at this year's Emmy Awards, a moment that functioned as a mini reunion all its own. Their shared presence at the Emmys had reminded everyone how singular that mother-daughter duo remains. By the time Lauren stepped onto Hollywood Boulevard for the star, it felt like she was carrying that energy with her. Rory in spirit, Lorelai in stride, and an entire town's worth of characters humming somewhere in the background. What makes a ceremony like this resonate beyond a day of speeches and photos? It's the way a single event can activate an entire cultural memory. When you saw Luke's cap, Emily's poise, and Lorelai's smile, you didn't just recall scenes, you remembered who you were when those scenes first aired. Maybe you watched Gilmore Girls with a parent, and Friday dinner jokes softened your real Friday dinners. Maybe you binged the show in college when fast talk finally found a home in your own voice. Maybe you discovered it much later when streaming let a new generation fall in love at its own pace. For each of those viewers, the star on the sidewalk confirmed something. This wasn't a fad, and it wasn't just comfort TV. It was a story that kept people company, then kept them brave, and it wasn't lost on anyone that this recognition came from a place that often overlooks TV's quieter revolutions. The Walk of Fame honors movie stars, recording artists, directors, producers. But television, with its patient accumulation of hours and emotions, sometimes sneaks its influence in through the side door. A star for Lauren Graham says directly that the work of building a character across years, making her funny without cruelty, strong without meanness, flawed without collapse, is worth engraving into the street itself. The numbering tells its own story. The 280/23 star carved into the most famous sidewalk in the world for a performer whose best-known character lived in a tiny town where everyone knows your name and your secrets. That contrast is the point. Influence can be loud or soft. This one was soft, and it lasted. The reunion also reopened a familiar door. Will there be more Gilmore Girls? The question trails every gathering like this. Every panel, every pair of castmates seen at lunch, every interview where Amy grins and dodges. The creative realities are complex. Schedules matter. Stories matter even more. But if you watch Lauren absorb the warmth of former co-stars and the obvious affection of the show's creators, you could feel that the universe remains intact. The appetite is there, the chemistry palpable. And Graham herself has always been careful about protecting what makes Lorelai special: smart choices, not just more choices. That restraint is why fans trust her instincts about returning to Stars Hollow. If it happens, it'll be for reasons that feel right. Still, the day wasn't built on speculation. It was grounded in gratitude. Lauren's for the role in the audience, and the audience is for what that role has meant. She laughed, she reflected, she let the emotion land without turning the moment into a farewell or a tease. That balance, heartfelt and light, is something she's done for decades on screen. The humor that breaks tension, the sincerity that doesn't tip into sentimentality, the ability to say thank you in a way that makes the crowd feel like old friends, not consumers. That style isn't learned, it's lived. As the star was unveiled and the applause rose, the sidewalk seemed to hold more than a piece of terrazzo and brass. It held the memory of first episodes and last words, of coffee cups and town meetings, of seasons where the show meant everything to someone who needed a companion after a tough day. To be honored on the Walk of Fame is to be told you're a landmark. But on this day, the real landmark was the community the work created. It stretched from the front row to the back of the crowd, out across social media, into living rooms where fans queued up their favorite episodes to celebrate in their own way. By sunset, the photos had already begun their orbit. Headlines framed the moment as a reunion, and they were right. The images carried an ease that can't be faked. It wasn't just colleagues standing shoulder to shoulder, it was people who built something together and knew, even years later, exactly what that something was. That recognition, private, shared, and then offered to the public, gave the day its glow. If you listen closely beneath the applause and the camera shutters, you could hear the show's cadence in the air, banner quick as breath, affection that doubles as armor, the rhythm of a small town that found its way to the biggest stage. The Walk of Fame belongs to legends, and Lauren Graham is now etched among them. But she arrived there with a family at her side, and a town at her back, and millions of viewers who still know the words by heart. And that might be the lasting picture of the day, Lauren smiling at a crowd that wasn't just celebrating a career, but a connection. A creator speaking about an actor who changed her life. Co-stars who slipped back into a natural orbit as if no time had passed at all. A star in the ground that says the quiet work of making people feel at home through humor, honesty, and a little bit of speed, talk, is worthy of permanence. In the end, the ceremony didn't promise a new season or resolve old debates. It didn't need to. What it offered was something steadier, proof that great television doesn't end when the credits roll. It lingers in the places where you live, shows up years later to remind you who you were, and meets you again on a sunlit afternoon in Hollywood when the sidewalk becomes a town square and the cast of a show becomes a family once more. And that's why this wasn't just a ceremony. It was a reunion, a celebration, and the best kind of reminder. The sidewalk can hold a star, the star can hold a story. And the story, if you're lucky, can hold you right back.